Remnant 2's first DLC, The Awakened King, is here, but is it any good? Should you come back and check out the new content, and is it worth the $10 price tag? My name is Codiak, this is Legacy Gaming, and get ready because today we're diving back into Losum and taking the fight to The Awakened King. Going into this DLC, we were excited to dive back into Losum. It's one of our favorite worlds within the game, and there was so much more to explore in terms of the storyline. Considering this game came out at the end of July and we're getting a DLC just a few months later, I wasn't under any illusion that some massive new world was going to be revealed. That just doesn't make a whole lot of sense for a small team like the one at Gunfire Games. Even Remnant from the Ashes only expanded courses to start. Ahead of the release of the DLC, we were told the game would have about 3 to 5 hours of new content. But I've got to be honest with you guys, one run in and I was pushing well into my 8th hour. Understand that our team scours every corner of every map trying to find secrets, and overall takes things a bit slower so that we can create content for you all, but still, 3 to 5 hours seems like a bit of an undersell. The story of the DLC is this: the one true king has awakened and he's pissed that someone put a knife through his neck. Now he trusts no one, and Fae and Dran alike are all enemies in the eyes of the king. Our job is to fight through a new story and uncover the root of the king's madness. Along the way, we'll meet a few new faces, as well as some familiar ones, including Namue, who has been part of every Losum story thus far, but things are a bit different, as you can tell. The final beats of the story will have us confront the king, but what choices we make along the way will be entirely up to us. A bit ominous, I know. When you load up the DLC, you'll experience what the team is calling a one-shot adventure mode, where you can play through the entire Awakened King storyline with all of the new maps at once. This is your best chance to find secrets and get new loot, because once you re-roll your adventure mode, the other Losum maps will rotate in. Playing through the one-shot adventure for the first time, we got a taste for a few things, such as the new overworld zone called Forlorn Shore. The team really bulked up the scale of this map, and it spans across a number of different subzones that all connect the Awakened King content. Of course, there are your classic dungeon tiles as well, and while these all feel familiar, they all have their own unique flair and flavor. A few things that stick out are the verticality of some of the new sewer maps that absolutely assault you with a new spitter mob that was the cause of much frustration. A massive stone archway leading to a half-constructed tower with a familiar face below. And the lighthouse, which really helped us believe we were on the coast of this decaying city. Of course, we can't forget about the one true king's castle, which is seemingly teleported on top of the entire village, which is perfect given the situation the Fae and the Dran are in, two worlds colliding together to horrible effect. All in all, exploring the zones felt like jumping right back into an experience we had never left, and while elements of the world were certainly new, it all felt familiar in a good way. The introduction of a few new enemies also helped change the flavor of the DLC experience. I already mentioned the spitters, which we had to face pretty much everywhere. There are two varieties, one green and one purple, and each has a slightly different moveset, with the green spitting poison orbs at you, and the purple puking a violent stream of nastiness over a few seconds. There's also the new dual-wielding spear enemy, a lesser form of a boss we'll talk about in just a bit. Using agility and two deadly weapons, they dart around the encounter area and attempt to skewer you until you're dead. We also ran into a number of misfigured hulking enemies that wield a massive axe. They remind us a bit of the Executioner mob from the Fae side, but are much more imposing size-wise. You'll also encounter some new casters that send out homing orbs, as well as defend themselves with a small spell shield that they can shoot out as an attack. There were also some new variants of Dran, such as the blunderbuss enemies, which are often lurking right behind a corner, ready to fill you full of lead. Finally, we can't forget about the Witch, a new enemy that drags around a massive anchor and attempts to catch you off guard with a few different melee attacks that all have multiple animations. It's a small but deadly group of new enemies, and coupled with a few familiar faces like the Flying Fae from the Golden side and the Chainsaw Elite from the Dran side, it adds to the overall experience. What I most enjoy about the DLC is the new Ritualist archetype. We've got a great video up on the channel breaking down how to unlock the class and where to find its armor and weapons, so I won't go into all those details here, but what I will say is that it's a really well-designed class aimed at absolutely destroying trash mobs. The gist of the archetype is to capitalize on status effect damage. You know, bleed, burn, corrosive, overload, anything that applies a dot or damage over time to enemies. The traits, perks, and skills all lean into various aspects of that core idea, and depending on your playstyle, you can choose to build out an archetype that really feeds into the overall strength of the class. I preferred to go full tilt status effect by choosing the second skill, Miasma, which allowed me to cast a huge AoE on demand that applied all of the status effects to any enemies hit. Then, using the new Sparkfire shotgun, I would pick off any enemies that were still standing, making short work of pretty much anything. The entire DLC is filled with new weapons, rings, and amulets that, for the most part, all feed into building out a powerful ritualist, so exploring that class was what I found to be the most fun. As we've come to expect from Remnant 2, there's also a new group of bosses, and as the name suggests, you're ultimately fighting the one true king. The encounter itself doesn't disappoint, and while it's not the most intricate fight the team has ever developed, it certainly feels massive. He's a huge, hulking figure, and the encounter area encapsulates all of that and then some, and that sense of scale really helps make it feel like the final fight. The lesser bosses are pretty solid too. The Hand of the King is a boss version of that dual-wielding spear enemy we talked about before. The moveset is enhanced significantly, and so is his aggressiveness. Playing solo, it was hard to put space between myself and the boss so I could engage effectively. There's also a great moment where he jumps up to a small overlook and a bunch of Fey warriors fly down. In the lore, the Hand of the King, just like the one true king, doesn't trust anyone, so the spears he throws from that perch actually rip through the Fey warriors. It's small details like this that helped kind of tie the story and the gameplay together. The other boss, the Sunken Witch, is one we were able to reveal exclusively here on the channel before the DLC went live. If you want to check out that full fight with our commentary, definitely go look at that video, but the fight itself is really cool. Again, her moveset is augmented beyond that of the elite enemy modeled after the boss, and the encounter area itself is incredibly tight, making her melee-focused moveset that much more impactful. To give yourself more space, you need to bait the boss to attack destructible walls, but even then, you don't have a lot of room to play with, so you have to nail your dodge rolls. 3 fully fleshed out new bosses with rewards to boot feels right for a DLC of this size, and they live up to the expectations we have for the game. Finally, let's talk about secrets. Being candid with you guys, Remnant 2 has absolutely spoiled us when it comes to treasure hunting. There is no other game, at least one that I can think of, that toys with your sense of reality more than Remnant 2. In every area, my eyes just constantly scan to see if I can identify something out of place. Just like in the base game, there are times where we discover a secret, only to realize there's another step in the mystery or another option we could have explored for a different piece of loot. This happens a few times throughout the DLC, and while we haven't uncovered everything quite yet, we're on the hunt and we'll be dropping another video in our Secrets of series as soon as we crack the code to all of the One True King's mysteries. I genuinely think our whole team was shocked by the number of new secrets and subsequent items they added to the game. According to the development team, the DLC introduces 12 amulets, 24 rings, and a slew of new weapons and mods. That's pretty generous for a $10 DLC, and like I said before, there's enough new stuff to help you really build out a solid ritualist build, which makes a ton of sense. The new class needs to have new items that feed its different gameplay systems, so once again, the team really delivers on that front. Ultimately, it comes down to this. If you loved Remnant 2 and you want more Remnant 2 in your life, and who wouldn't, this DLC just makes a whole lot of sense to pick up. If you previously purchased the Ultimate Edition of the game, you already have the Awakened King coming your way, so one less decision you have to make. It's not an overly long DLC, which again we expected given how quickly after launch this is coming out, but I would argue there's more than 3 to 5 hours worth of content here, if you take the time and explore everything the team has created. If you bum rush the last boss and complain there's nothing else to do, then I'm sorry, I don't know what to tell you, because the true joy in this game, at least for us, comes from finding secrets, creating a sick build, and pushing into the hardest difficulties. As with most things, we simply don't waste our time on games we don't love, so if you're here and wondering if Remnant 2's first DLC is worth picking up, the answer is yes. This is one of our favorite games, period, and we want to continue to support Gunfire Games as they create new content and eventually think about their next big title. If you like supporting devs that create awesome stuff, this is a no-brainer. Remnant 2's first DLC, The Awakened King, is available starting November 14th, 2023 for all major platforms. Friends, we are just getting started, so if you want more Remnant 2 videos in your feed, you know what to do. Come on, don't make me beg. Hit that thumbs up, consider subscribing, because it's still the single best way to help channels like ours reach new audiences. You could also join us on Discord if you want to hang out with the team, talk about great games, and enter for your chance to win tons of free prizes. That link, as always, is below. My name is Codiak, and from everyone here at Legacy Gaming, thanks for watching, and play on.